With the US government planning war with Venezuela and moving naval assets to off the coast and having already killed dozens of people in their missile strikes on boats, well, it's probably time to learn about the Venezuela crisis and Nicolas Maduro and why it's still, even after everything I'll say, a terrible idea to invade Venezuela. And please do some engagement because usually topics like this get shadow banned so no one sees and no one knows. Now, our story has an A plot and a B plot. The A plot consists of the Venezuela crisis itself and Nicolas Maduro's government being unable and unwilling to accept that A, it exists, and then B, to do something about it. And the second plot, the much more weird one, is the long-cooking conspiracy theory views in right-wing circles, especially in the United States, about the government of Venezuela and Nicolas Maduro himself. Now, to understand the A-plot, we have to go back to before Nicolas Maduro, to the beginning of what was called the Bolivarian Revolution, or Chavismo, the rise of Hugo Chavez in 1999. And important to also note at this point, in 1999 were some of the lowest oil prices to that point in time. Hugo Chavez was a charismatic military officer who had a failed attempted coup, served time in prison against the unjust and corrupt government, and managed to front a popular revolt against the establishment, establishing an entirely new system, including a new constitution that took place in 1999. Now, I could do an entire video on Chavismo, the good parts and the bad parts, but for our purposes, we need to understand there was an underlying flaw in the economic logic of Chavismo. It was highly dependent upon oil sales from a state-owned gas company. This meant that Chavez had a huge amount of money when gas went to historic highs throughout almost all of his term. And for 11 years, things were doing pretty fucking good. Now, all this oil money was really good while the price of oil was high, but that would not continue forever, and oil revenues would go as high as $150 per barrel, all the way down to hovering around $30 per barrel, meaning the Venezuelan government's welfare program was dependent upon a system of oil prices never, ever, ever going down. A gamble that blew up in their faces in a major way. But it wasn't just the collapse of the oil price, it was also how these welfare systems were structured, specifically that they were focused around subsidizing the costs of things instead of permanently lowering them. For example, giving direct assistance or aid for food, but when the food prices start spiraling out of control, your costs for that same program to achieve the same effect start to also spiral dramatically out of control. And now this is where we get to the really bad part, because this would be a bad situation for any government if they admitted it was a problem in the first place. But the Maduro government has been very consistent for many, many years now that there is no Venezuela crisis, even though 1 in 4 people of their population has now moved abroad, almost 8 million people, both rich, middle class, and poor. And to add pain to pain, the government of Maduro is notoriously corrupt, with Maduro himself enriching himself greatly at the expense of everything else. This has become a system of patronage and political terror, with people living through starvation on a daily basis, and the average person in Venezuela losing over 5 kilos in the last 10 years. When I say the government of Nicolas Maduro denies that these things are happening, he literally burns aid trucks at the border and has the military blocking aid from entering the country. He, in just the same way that Donald Trump does, blames all of his problems on terrorists and guerrillas and criminals and saboteurs and people coming to get him. His paranoia has seeped into every aspect of an ever-expanding security state, with organization after organization after organization going after anyone who has protested against him, anyone who has raised their voice against him, both journalists and professionals, but also random people in the streets, including high officials. But to really understand the Maduro regime, you need to watch one of their pieces of propaganda. This is a video that is shockingly like an ICE video, which was taking footage that a woman live streamed of herself being disappeared. And then they overlaid the music from Freddy Krueger in Spanish language on top. And it's not just the disappearances, it's the extrajudicial killings. It is the use of disappearing someone, the threat of it to achieve bribes, which can range from anywhere from $500 to tens of thousands of dollars. It is a system that the security services have been granted such extreme power that is squeezing the life out of the public daily. And now that he's run the Supreme Court and the opposition out of Venezuela and has crafted a new constitution around himself, it is becoming ever more difficult to get rid of Nicolas Maduro by any mechanisms that exist now within the broken constitution of Venezuela. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, maybe we do need to get rid of this Maduro character if he's starving and killing his own people. But guys, it's Donald doing this. And unironically, our very unpopular Venezuelan leader, Nicolas, has also attempted just this year to threaten to invade his neighbor, Guyana, after they discovered a massive oil field. This brings us nicely to our B plot, the right-wing conspiracy obsession with Venezuela. Now, if you're a normal person, you probably don't have strong feelings or opinions about Venezuela. Now, in the right-wing imagination, Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, and the ghost of Hugo Chavez are at the center of a leftist plot against America. And they've been pumping this idea for years and years now. This belief isn't really helped because there's a lot of very online American leftists that seem to do a performative love of people like Nicolas Maduro, not really knowing anything about Venezuela or Nicolas Maduro. In reality, Nicolas is a highly isolated leader of a country that even his former close allies in the South American and Central American left view as a pariah because he's literally murdering his own people. And it's not just that either. Because he needs so much money to prop up this failing system, he keeps selling off state assets to foreign governments, with the People's Republic of China and the Russian Federation owning most of the state-owned oil company of Venezuela. It also is important that you understand that Nicolas has been trying to figure out an out for a while now. For several years, he's been trying to feel his way around to see if there's a way that he can leave government and also not face any criminal charges and retain all of his wealth, including currently trying to negotiate a situation with the Trump administration. And what's really wild and really shows how Maduro has turned his entire political party into just a fan club for himself is there was an out where his political party still controls the government of Venezuela. They just have Nicolas Maduro not be the guy anymore. And now we get to the part where we unfortunately have to agree with John Bolton. Trump's plan to invade Venezuela to decapitate its leadership will not solve the Venezuela crisis. If anything, it will just result in many, many dead and a puppet regime propped up by the United States taking hold. One that unfortunately Central and South America has seen many times before, and never to any benefit. If you want to see Maduro gone, support civil society, support the Venezuelan opposition, support Venezuelans in fixing Venezuela, not people like Donald Trump trying to do regime change based upon conspiracy theories they watched 10 years ago on Fox News. Thank you for watching. Please donate and subscribe if you can.